Hello, I have a Superman Legacy update for you today. I have a Blue Beetle update for you today. I want to talk about David Zaslav and I want to talk about Matt Reeves. But I really have to readdress something that's happened between me and a couple of very famous people on Twitter. DC legend and icon John Wesley Shipp and I argued over politics. Surprise, surprise, it's all the man tweets about. Still a legend, still an icon, I've muted him. Anyway, he accused me of being anti-Semitic because I addressed him and people who work in Hollywood as you Hollywood types. I of course responded and thanked him for confirming that the Jewish community dominate and run Hollywood. That's not anti-Semitic, that's factual. In fact, I believe the Jewish community have some of the greatest and finest minds in human history. Again, that's not anti-Semitic. But this is an industry dominated by one community that laughingly talks about representation and inclusion. And there is no representation and inclusion just because you're inclusive to black people from your own community, Asian people from your own community, brown people from your own community, women of your own community. That doesn't make you inclusive. Now, I have no issue with one community running, running businesses. That's not a problem. I grew up in an era with all Indian people running corner shops and they did a fine damn job. Had no issue. We had Asian people running the good old-fashioned fish and chip shops and they sold their Chinese food as well. Had no problem with that. Lovely food. Every community has the business that they dominate and that's okay. The problem with Hollywood and the entertainment industry, it's one community that dominates it, runs it, literally progresses each other, only gives each other jobs. There's 80 to 90% of that community in that industry. And they have the cheek and the gall to talk about representation and inclusion. I'm fine. I'm fine with the way they do it. I don't want to argue with Hollywood types. They're my heroes. I think the arts, entertainment, and the process of acting are magical. I still think it's amazing that when I watch Kiefer Sutherland in 24, I actually believe he's Jack Bauer, a CTU agent that sacrificed so much. And when I think about what that character's been through, it breaks my heart. That's how much I believe in this system and these people. So no, I'm not anti-Semitic, but I like to be honest and I like honesty. And this industry became activists. They threw out titans of industry for activists. The problem is their activism is a fraud because there is no representation and inclusion in Hollywood. Let's move over to the argument I had with Mr. Scott Derrickson, a very famous horror movie director who did one of my favorite movies, Black Phone, also did Doctor Strange, the first one. So he was talking about overrated and activist director Greta, whatever her name is, right? What's her surname anyway? Greta, right? She's doing the Barbie movie. So he was talking about her doing these two movies, writing and directing them, saying he doesn't like The Chronicle of Narnia. It's one of the books that C.S. Lewis wrote. I said, don't worry, Scott. I'm sure that Greta Gerwig, that's her name, I got there in the end. I'm sure Greta Gerwig will rewrite history for you. Laughing emoji. Do you know how he responded? Instead of having a debate of nuance, everyone, this is what extreme left Hollywood do. He called me an idiot. I never swore at him. I never insulted him. He responded to me as an idiot. I was spitting facts. That's the truth. And he didn't like it. This is what they're doing. They're turning on their customer. Now, going back to John Wesley Shipp, I also reminded him about the paedophilia problems in the industry, the sexual harassment problems. They even had to form Me Too because they lost control of that situation. Many of them have access to a certain island, right, where children are fucking abused. Yeah, but they talk about toxic fandom. They say the customers are the problem. Anyway, I've made my point. I hope it doesn't break the YouTube rules. I think I've spoken within the rules of YouTube. We will soon find out. Anyway, Now it's time for a Superman Legacy update, Blue Beetle update. I want to talk about David Zaslav, and I want to talk about Matt Reeves as well. So let's go. James Gunn has said Superman Legacy will be a workplace origin story. What does this mean? This means exactly what I predicted on yesterday's video as we spoke about the most important element of a Superman story, the relationship and the romance between Superman, Clark and Lois. He's talking about focusing the dynamic of these characters in the workplace, in the Daily Planet. Some of the best banter between these two characters in live action and in comics has always been at the Daily Planet. So that excites me that James wants to do this. But he has to be very, very careful here. This just can't be a workplace movie. This just can't be about Lois and Clark and their relationship. It can have that heart, it can have that central point, but you can't forget the gee whiz, the action, the adventure, and everything else that comes with Superman and superheroes. And of course, he's not going to forget that. As a fan himself, he understands he needs a fully rounded movie, and I'm sure he's going to get there. Now, there's a big spread for Blue Beetle in Empire magazine. And the director of the movie claims it won't be about Blue Beetle saving the world. It's going to be a very, very domestic, small story. What is the story? Well, obviously, we're going to see the character basically discover the scarab attach itself to him and have this ability to be Blue Beetle. And it's going to be very interesting to see how the character actually comes to terms with all of this. Jamie Reyes, a young Latinx boy, and it's going to be, this is not woke. There's always, for many, many years, Jamie Reyes has been part of the Blue Beetle story. So that's absolutely fine. And it's great. And I celebrate the Latinx community. But it's not going to be a big story. But fundamentally, they have changed Ted Kord for Victoria Kord. They've literally given Ted Kord a sex change. We're not going to see the procedure, but that's pretty much what they've done, right? Look, we could have had a Victoria Kord, so we could have the excellent Susan Sarandon in this movie, but we could have also had a Ted Kord, an evil woman called Victoria Kord, and Ted Kord is the good guy. That would have been a very interesting story there. Or even in another movie or a TV series, if Ted Kord is the hero and Victoria Kord is the villain. Alas, today we're doing a lot of cultural swaps and race swaps and gender swaps. It's a shame because Ted Kord is an iconic character, but maybe he'll show up somewhere. Unless he doesn't and he's actually dead in the new DCU, we will soon find out. Now, Matt Reeves has come out to speak about the future of The Batman franchise. In fact, he said he doesn't want this to be some kind of money-making IP. He wants it to be about the art. But he said something that I've identified for many, many years, and it's actually come to reality now. He spoke about the industry being in a financial meltdown and a creative meltdown as well. I do love honest people. He knows that this industry is a shit show. And he believes the best way forward, like all the intelligent, logical people do, is to create great art. Matt Reeves' The Batman is great art. It puts Batman and Bruce Wayne in a great place. It's not controversial. It's not divisive, but it's very, very creative. And Matt wants to continue in that way with the Penguin, the Arkham series, and the Batman too. And I wish him all the best of luck. And he's speaking absolute facts. This industry is on the floor. Anyway, I want to talk about David Zaslav. David Zaslav brings controversy with him wherever he goes. There was going to be a critical article about him from GQ magazine. His people, he and his people didn't like it. It's been pulled. In fact, someone who works within GQ magazine, who's a big boss there, apparently he's producing something at Warner Brothers. He used his influence to take the article away. Now, this doesn't look great, but I'm surprised how so many of you are surprised about this situation. This is how the world works. Is it right? No. It's true. Most of Hollywood hate David Zaslav. Most entertainment fans hate David Zaslav. I don't, because I know where the bodies are buried. And I know a lot of Snyderverse fans did believe in him and don't anymore. Here's the truth. David Zaslav isn't the problem maker. He's the problem solver. The problems with Warner Brothers and the financial meltdown came a long time ago. Time Warner ran this company into the ground, then sold out when things went rock bottom. And then AT&T bought it. They didn't do a much better job, but they tried their best, but they had no experience in scripted entertainment. What could possibly go wrong? They panicked. They went to problem solver, asset stripper David Zaslav, and that's exactly what he's doing. But let me be clear. Every controversial decision that Zaslav is making is needed. He has to do it. I repeat, he's only doing it because of what other people have done to this company. The entertainment industry is on the floor, but Warner Brothers Discovery are in the worst position ever. Why? Because they overspent and they haven't made enough money. They don't make many billion-dollar movies. Now, I know they're all suffering and not many are making billion-dollar movies. I think we've had one this year. We've had the Mario movie, and of course, James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy 3 has made over 800 million. Say what you want about James Gunn, and he's by no means perfect. But what he is, he makes, writes, and directs movies with his heart. That's what I said about Russell T Davies and Doctor Who. When you tell stories with your heart, when your characters leap off the page, you've got to start. That's why he's got a good chance of being really successful with DC Universe. Whether you like what he's done and you know what he's done with the Flash ending and whatever else you have an issue with, he's good at what he does. So absolutely, I'm going to be giving him a chance with Superman Legacy. I will judge on consumption. But the problem is, potentially, we may never get to Superman Legacy. Not because I don't want it to happen. Not because I'm a biased Snyderverse fan. I admire Zack's movies, but I'm not here for a director. I'm here for DC. I'm here for my boy Superman. And all these other characters, iconic characters. But Warner Brothers are in such trouble. By the time we get to Superman Legacy, there may not be a Warner Brothers Pictures anymore. It might be swallowed up by somebody else. And they may change the narrative and the plan, and I know a lot of you will celebrate that. It would be a shame for us to be invested in a brand new Superman movie and for not to happen. So hopefully it does. It's a race against time for Warner Brothers Discovery. But let me be damn clear here. He had to shelve the Batgirl movie to keep the studio going. He needed that tax write-off. That movie wasn't going to bring in the bacon anyway. It had to happen. The Turner Classic Movies situation again, he's seeing a channel that's not making money. It's not bringing in the sponsorships and the advertisements. So he's making decisions as a businessman that he has to make. And the decisions are not pretty. But you're going to see the same decisions that Zaslav's making. Hollywood, Tinseltown, favorite boy, Bob Iger, is making the same decisions. Shelving stuff, firing diversity managers, they're all making the same decisions because Hollywood have an issue, a big problem, a big issue. And we really need to take a look at that. This is not a DC or a Marvel or Star Wars or a Lucasfilm issue. The problem is with the whole town and the way they're run. And that's what I spoke about on the top of the show. That, they drove out the titans of industry, like Mr. Lasseter, who founded, Pixar. They fired him for cuddling too hard. That's all the man did. The Me Too, And don't forget, Me Too ignored all the men that were being sexually harassed. I can't think why. So right now I want to look into what went wrong with Hollywood. Everyone. I'm a lover of the arts, entertainment, film, and, television and Manchester United. That's what I love. That's what I'm here to do. That's why I'm on Twitter all day, sharing stuff, talking about major issues. It's what basically gets me up in the morning, and we need to talk facts. Empires are destroyed from within. Hollywood has destroyed itself from within. But the problem is, the access media are throwing the spin for them and never speak the truth. Now, there's an element of truth here spoken by a Variety journalist, and what's his name? His name is Josh Spiegel, right? So let's see what he has to say. Disney desperately needs to create something new, says critic Josh Spiegel. It does a good job at cannibalizing itself. They make their movies and echo what they've done in the past. At a certain point, there won't be a whole lot of them to echo. So here, what you're seeing from Josh is trying to spin the narrative and say, well, it's the reboots and the relaunches that are the problem. No, that's not the issue. The issue is they're using these great properties like Indiana Jones to rewrite history itself. Because you've got activists making these movies, making these reboots. It's my whole point about, basically Greta, is that her name? Greta, I've forgotten her name again, redoing the Chronicles of Narnia. She's an activist, right? So it's Greta something. I nearly had her name. I forgot it again. But the point is, right, Greta is going to redo the Chronicles of Narnia, but she's not doing it for the love of the property. She's doing it to introduce gal bosses, to hate on white men, because she's an activist. And that's the real problem with all these reboots. The problem is that, doing sequels and reboots isn't the real problem. You need an industry that's doing those sequels and reboots for the right reason, right? First of all, and to do them well. And to continue the excitement that we had for them when we were growing up, and to introduce them to a new generation. But when they say they're making them for a new generation, they don't really mean that. They mean they're going to rewrite history, shit on the straight white dude we all looked up to as kids. And this is why Hollywood, all of Hollywood, is on the brink of receivership, everyone. This is the problem. What you need is a Hollywood that does sequels and reboots, like they always did when we were growing up, but did new stuff as well. It's basically called variety. Something we haven't had in Hollywood for 20, 30 years. I warned what would happen many, many years ago if they kept on going down that line. They didn't listen. I never thought we'd get to the implosion so quickly, but I always knew there was only one way this was going to end. Empires, everyone, are destroyed from within. But it's the activism that is the core problem here. Because what you're doing, every time there's a movie released, there's a controversy. And they think they can sell these movies on this controversy. And it's just not working. Is it because they're anti-capitalist? Are they actually trying to destroy the entertainment industry from within, considering the activists have got a grip on this industry now? Are they that clever? Or are they just fucking stupid people basically destroying something beautiful? Well, they are destroying something utterly beautiful. Some may say, even me, that they've already destroyed something beautiful. You see, Hollywood have attempted to reverse engineer the industry. So instead of straight dudes and straight women being the central customer and attracting those people, they've tried to reverse engineer us, drive us away and bring in the LGBTQ community, black, brown, Asian people, and it hasn't worked. Now, of course, the LGBTQ community, black, brown people, are a major part of the audiences, right? But here's the thing. For 20, 30, 40 years, those people were invested in straight women and straight men's stories. Ironically, they were invested in the great straight romances. And now we don't get those straight romances anymore. But for 20, 30 years, trans people and gay people were invested in those. Very few gay people, as I said the other day, went to see Bros. Because the people who buy the merch, who buy the tickets, who go to Comic-Con are the, not white, but the straight people, right? And of course gay people go as well. And of course all different corners go. But the dominant audience has always been straight men and straight women. And they're normally the ones who spend the money as well. And what they've done is they've reverse engineered us to drive us away. And they brought in people who may be or maybe not happy with what's going on because they're being represented right. Everyone should be, everyone should be seen right. I don't actually agree with that. The most important thing is to entertain, to give an escape, as they did 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago. As I saw when I saw my first movie, and I say every day and it's boring, but it's true, Superman the movie. I was taken somewhere beautiful. In Star Wars A New Hope, I was taken somewhere beautiful. Now we're not taken anywhere beautiful, we're kept in the real world, and that's the problem. Everybody, every mind needs a little bit of escape, but the activists don't believe in that. You've got rid of talented people for these nut jobs. And Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is a great example of this. And this is the sheer problem. So they've destroyed something brilliant. They have destroyed easy money. It's easy. If people want Scotch eggs, you sell them Scotch eggs. You don't take all the ingredients out and put new ingredients in. I mean, they do sometimes, don't they? They say it's more healthier this way and it doesn't taste the same anymore. But I wanted the unhealthy shit. Let me have the shit that I've always eaten. That's the problem with the world we live in. It's being run by people who want to live in some kind of perfect world. Well, humanity isn't perfect. And the world doesn't have to be perfect. But, and this is going to offend a lot of people, the reason Hollywood are on the brink of destruction, because they didn't stick to the natural order of things. As I've just said, every corner of the world, every diverse group was coming in to watch Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet fall in love in Titanic. In 1991, gay people, trans people, straight people came in to watch Kevin Costner in Kevin Reynolds' Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and they saw Lady Marian and Robin kissing at the end, and they cheered just like the straight people did. Think about that for a minute, everyone. But they've tried to re-engineer the industry. Why is it that trans and gay, because trans people have always been in, society, but they were just hidden. But even now, they're going to see that shit. There's a difference, right? Because the extreme left have gaslit the LGBTQ community. Of course, there are activist members of this community, troublemakers that insist that we call ourselves he, hims, and she, hers, instead of saying, I'm a him, and she's a she, because that's actually what we are. I can accept that you're trans and that you've gone through such an ordeal because you felt you weren't in the right body, and I respect that, and I could never know how you feel, but you don't get to tell me how I'm addressed. Now, if you want to be called a they, them, or whatever else you want to be called, that's fine. I'll respect that. But you don't get to tell me that I'm a he, him. I'm a him, damn it. And that's it. And that's the problems we live in today. The Bud Light situation is a great example of what happens when you become ultra political and you put you put a hat on and you say, I'm standing by this movement. That's the problem. That's not what the entertainment industry used to be. Yes, there was always political sides, there'd always been liberal and all of that. My father brought me up as a liberal, not an extremist liberal, but, moderate left. But that's not the point. The industry were always slightly political, but in the storytelling, it was done in a very interesting, educational way. Now, they're smashing you over the head with an axe. That's the problem. And it doesn't work, because once you tell someone in art what you believe in is wrong. They've never done that. They've never done that in previous eras before. They did factual things, educational things, and it was a make your own mind up thing. So the far left trying to prove the narrative that it's always been political. Doctor Who has always been political. Yes, Doctor Who had elements of politics. RTD, Moffat did their thing, but they weren't bashing your head. They weren't saying you were scum, right? They were saying, this is what we think, here it is, enjoy the show. That's the difference. And that, you know, when people try and gaslight other people for saying things are too political these days, it's like celebrities that go on Twitter and talk about politics all day. They say, people say we can't talk about politics. Why not? We have every right to talk about what we want. Of course you have. But the reason we're all adding you up and following you is because we love you. We love your art. The last thing we ever expected is for you to call us assholes because we have certain opinions, politics, or anything else. This is why I argued with Scott Derrickson. This is why I argued with John Wesley Shipp. This is why I got blocked by Noel Clarke, who played Mickey Smith in Doctor Who. I mean, look what happened to him. He was exposed as well. How funny. It's like I bring bad luck to these people once I argue with them. Hey, it ain't purposely done. But here's the thing about me. I don't believe in the political system. The only thing I believe in is Manchester United, the entertainment industry, and the arts. I believe in telling a story. I believe in telling stories because I'm a storyteller myself. I'm very passionate about this industry and it's been brought to its knees. So, no, this guy is partially right and partially wrong. He's right. They're going to run out of stories. They're going to have to reboot the reboots in the end, but that's not the point. You can continue sagas and do sequels and reboots well with the right and pure motivations on your side. But when it's about rewriting history, Greta Gerwig, that's what I'm talking about. Greta Gerwig is a perfect example. She's an overrated director who's an activist. And she's going to write and direct 2 Chronicles of Narnia movies. And we know what she's going to do, and we know they're going to be bad, and we know they're not going to do well. But they'll be on Netflix, so nobody will ever know how they do. And they'll just tell us how many minutes view time they got, which makes it look like they're more viewed than they actually are, because they're not run on the old Nielsen, 10 million people, 10 million homes watched it, which is a more accurate assessment. Minutes, cutting it out to minutes makes it sound more than it actually is. But they have to do this. They have to spin the narrative. The MCU has become redundant. The Flash movie is one of the most biggest flops in Hollywood history. Why? That's something else I reminded Mr. John Wesley Shipp about. He said us fans are being judgmental for judging alleged groomer Ezra Miller. Apparently being offended by grooming, alleged grooming, is being judgmental. Well, that doesn't surprise me that Hollywood would have that attitude. And I brought that against him as well. This is why these people can never win. And when I say these people, I don't mean the Jewish community. I mean famous people. Famous people who believe that they're always right because they're good at something. Just because you're good at something, just because you have power and fame, or maybe you're a very successful YouTuber, unlike me, it doesn't make you right. It doesn't make your voice stronger than mine, or the other little people you trample on, and you blow your flute so they can follow you like sheep. Always be careful who you follow. Even all the shit I'm talking about now, do your own research, make your own minds up. I'm not telling you to agree with me. I'm just a guy sitting in his boxers and his vest because it's fucking hot, and I'm exploding today on this channel and speaking honestly. Don't let the skinhead fool you. I'm not a bigot, I'm not a homophobe, and I'm not a racist. I love you all. But I'm sorry, in terms of entertainment in the world we live in, there is a natural order of things. So I believe in the transgender community. I believe in the gay community. I believe in different cultures. I'm a Greek Cypriot who was brought up in the UK and was born in the UK. How could I not believe in different corners and respect all of that and love the strengths of these different cosmopolitan communities? You know, I think it's ironic that they were celebrating the 4th of July the other day when they literally stole a country from a bunch of natives, and then they rode a bunch of horses and put sticks in the air and claimed different pieces of land. And these are the very people who celebrate the 4th of July who talk about border control. The irony isn't lost on me. So no way, I'm far away. I'm as far away from the right wing as possible. But that doesn't mean I don't admire the Fandom Menace and what they've done for exposing this industry. They had to be exposed, and now they're about to implode because the people stood up. And when the people stand up and say no more, then we will get real change.